right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, actually some very, very interesting stories today. So let's get right into it here. The first story, Nick Walker, no longer working with Matt Jansen. There must have been quite a bit of truth to the video that Quinton Beastwood put out yesterday. He put out about a 20-minute, essentially just roast of Matt Jansen, who is Nick Walker's coach, well, was Nick Walker's coach. And Nick confirmed in the comment section of his YouTube channel earlier today that he's no longer working with Matt. He responded to a comment from Haas Bazzi 21 that said, "Nick, please leave Matt. You're too good for him." And Nick responded and said, "I no longer work with Matt." And I also notice, if you go to Nick's Instagram, the video that he did with Matt announcing that he was dropping out of the Olympia this year, that video has been taken down. That video's gone. I can't find it, at least. But here's the even crazier thing. It wasn't just Nick that left Matt Jansen. It was also Shaun Clarida and Brett Wilkin. Brett confirmed that today on Fouad Abiad's podcast. So this is pretty significant, and it turns out that Quinton's video yesterday was like the shot heard around the world, or at least heard around the bodybuilding world, because those are basically Matt's biggest guys, all three of them leaving him, and all three leaving within the same 24 hours. So I think that we can agree that Quinton's video was probably the motivation for all of these three guys to leave Matt. So there must have been a lot of truth in what he said. I mean, he talked about Matt, basically flat out called Matt a bad coach. He said he gaslights people. He said when he doesn't do well with prepping a guy and things start going wrong, he blames it on fake gear. And then Quinton also used Brett as a good example. Even though Brett looked good at Legion, the end result on stage was kind of like a smaller version of Brett than I think people expected, based on the progress pictures that we had seen from throughout that prep. And Quinton was basically saying, that's kind of what Matt does because he doesn't know what he's doing. He brought Quinton in, 20 pounds too small, Quinton said. Same with Shaun Clarida, came in too small at the Olympia and ended up not winning. And he made that point about Brett at the Legion show. And as I rewatched that Legion video, he's right. Brett was smaller than expected. And honestly, I think we got to give a big kudos to Quinton Beastwood for exposing this. Because like I said, he's not really a guy that gets involved in drama. He's not really a guy that talks shit. And this was kind of a different style of post for him, to post a video saying all these things about Matt. It says bad coaching in the title of the video. And it does, I think it really is very, very telling, the fact that after Quinton came out publicly and said this stuff, all three of Matt's biggest guys immediately ditched him. So they must have really resonated with the stuff that Quinton was saying in that video, and they were like, well, yeah, me too. And maybe now that Quinton said it publicly, it kind of gave them an excuse to leave Matt. Maybe they had been noticing these things like Quinton was talking about. Maybe they were unhappy with how Matt prepped them. They were unhappy with the end result, but they didn't really have a legitimate reason to leave him. And maybe Quinton gave them that reason. This was a pretty, legitimately, this video may have ended Matt's coaching career permanently. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. I mean it. I think this was a pretty big response. Nick, Brett, and Shaun all immediately ditching Matt. As soon as this video comes out, they're all done with him. I think that really kind of speaks for itself. Even if you wanted to believe or give Matt the benefit of the doubt, I guess, and believe he was a good coach, and maybe you just didn't want to believe what Quinton was saying, I think this really backs up everything that Quinton said. The fact that these guys also left. And I think Quinton had a really good line in his video where he said Matt is a much better marketer than he is a coach. And he says that he's good at making people think that he's a good coach. And it wasn't just Quinton, by the way. I also noticed that after Quinton's videos, there was a bunch of videos that popped up in reaction to what Quinton was saying. There was lots of other people in the industry, it turned out, that looked like they had a bad coaching experience with Matt as well, and they were speaking out, or they were saying things like Matt tried to steal their coaching clients, or Matt was DMing this person or that person, trying to bring them over to Camp Jansen. I do really want to point out here that the way it was worded from Brett in the Fuad podcast, that it's not super clear if Matt is just retiring and Matt decided he's not going to coach anybody anymore. Because Brett kind of said, I'm only going to speak on my piece with Matt. And he talked about how he's not working with Matt anymore, and that sounded kind of mutual. I don't necessarily know for sure that the Nick and Shaun situation, if they left on their own because of everything that's going on. I know that Brett said it was days ago that they made this decision. But I think we also have to include in here that maybe it wasn't that Nick and Shaun just ditched Matt. It could be that Matt had a talk with all these guys and said, you know, I'm retiring. I'm not going to coach anybody anymore, and mutually parted ways. But I don't know. Like I said, Nick did delete that video that him and Matt put out. So I think while we consider all these things about Matt and these guys no longer working with him, I think it is still on the table that all three situations could have been that Matt is just stopping coaching. Granted, I think it's clearly as a result of all of this, so it doesn't seem, you know, super voluntary. I think he's quitting coaching. If he's quitting coaching, he's quitting for a reason. But I think in Nick's case in particular, there's probably a lot more emotion involved because Nick, like I said, Nick has really been getting bashed pretty hard as a result of this decision that him and Matt seemingly made together. And if it really were more Matt's decision than Nick's, I could definitely see Nick leaving Matt on his own. But to be fair to Matt here, all that we know is he's not working with these guys anymore. We don't necessarily know for sure, based on any of these guys' statements, that they left him. We just know they all parted ways with Matt. So I know it's kind of semantics, and all three guys are no longer working with Matt. But I think we do have to leave it on the table that this could have been Matt's decision as well, especially after listening to what Brett said on Fuad's podcast. But it certainly does kind of feel like all these guys left Matt because of all this negativity. So I'm curious to see what happens going forward. I mean, there's a lot of great coaches out there that Nick could work with in the future. Boss of Outlaw has had an insane year. I kind of wonder about Hani Rambod as well. I know Hani is very selective with who he takes, but I think, you know, on the positive side here, I think this probably alleviates some of the heat that Nick was receiving as a result of this Olympia decision, because I think, you know, now in light of all this that's been said about Matt Jansen, I really think the public perception now is that Matt made him pull out. I think that's really what it looks like now. And I also think that's why Nick took down that video. I think if you look back at that video, it's a weird video. The reasons or lack thereof that they give for not doing the Olympia, it was very weird. And Matt was like speaking for Nick. Matt started the video. He introduced the topic. It was weird. And the reason was kind of just a non-reason that Nick doesn't look good enough to compete. And really, whose skin is that saving? Nick's or Matt's by keeping Nick off that stage? I mean, yeah, it wouldn't be great for Nick if he didn't look good on the Olympia stage, sure. But whose brand would it really hurt if Nick really did badly, and then we also just had Shaun Clarida do not so great? If we had both of those things happen in the same year, I think it really hurt Matt more than Nick. And as we found out, it seems like this decision not to do the Olympia and the reasoning behind it probably hurt Nick's image and Nick's brand far more than it would have hurt his brand if he was just off at the Olympia but still competed. So now I kind of look back at Nick not doing the Olympia completely differently, and I kind of take Nick out of the equation because now I strongly feel that it was Matt's decision and not Nick's. And Quinton was talking about how Matt kind of gaslights people and kind of makes them believe whatever it is that he's saying. And I kind of feel like he did that to Nick when it comes to not competing in the Olympia and convinced him not to do it. And I don't have anything against Matt. I don't really know a whole lot about him. I think maybe I met him back when I was still sponsored by Redcon and he was still coaching Dallas, maybe. Maybe I met him back then. But I've never even talked to the guy, so I don't have a grudge against him or anything, but I think this is probably one of the strongest reactions I've seen to a video like this about a coach, where the coach basically loses his whole coaching business. I mean, Matt's advertisement for his coaching is basically having these big stars, and I saw someone put it, riding their coattails, but this basically is the ad, is I worked with this guy. So people assume he's a great coach because he worked with Nick Walker. And if that's your marketing, and then all those big names leave you, I feel like that basically destroys his reputation as a coach. And I kind of even wonder if there's more going on behind the scenes than what we're aware of. Because it does seem like these guys were very quick to leave Matt. And also, rewatching Quinton's video, Quinton seemed like angry. He seemed like almost vindictive towards Matt. So I don't know if maybe Matt did or said something to these guys that they're not talking about, but Quinton almost seemed like pissed when he was talking about Matt. And I was looking at some of the stories that Quinton posted in the following day. And like I said, Quinton is like a super nice dude. He's not into drama. He's not really into talking shit about guys, and he's been like really doubling down on this one. So I feel like something must have happened aside from just bad coaching that maybe no one's talking about, because I feel like these guys were very, very quick to leave Matt. And these are all guys that have talked about, me and Matt are like brothers. We're so close. And, Brett, to be fair, to Brett's credit, when I was watching the clip from Fuad's podcast, Brett was still very respectful towards Matt. Even though he's no longer working with Matt, he didn't really have anything negative to say about him besides, Matt's obviously having a rough year this year. So to be fair to Brett, it doesn't really seem like him and Matt have a major issue. He's just not working with him, which still seems like kind of a major issue in and of itself. But I do kind of hope that this takes a little bit of heat off of Nick Walker, because he's been getting it from all angles. I mean, people have really not been too kind to him about skipping the Olympia, and I think, again, it was kind of the lack of a real reason. But I'm kind of viewing this in a completely different light now that we've heard all this stuff about Matt. And like I said, I almost don't even think that it was Nick's decision at all. I really feel like, looking back at it now, Nick was talked out of doing the Olympia. And I think it was more to protect Matt's image than Nick's. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you think Matt's career as a coach is over? Do you think who do you think Nick's next coach will be? And do you think anything else will come out from this situation? Let me know your reaction in the comments down below. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon. And as always, love you guys, appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at NickStrengthPower. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.